Autumn Beckman here. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I have a very special guest today. This is my dog Sebastian, and this story is about him and what's happened to him in the last couple of weeks. I wanted to have him in the beginning of the video so you can see him, but I'm gonna have to hand him off because my back has been out for the last few days and it's really hurting me to hold him. I'm gonna pass him off to the boyfriend and then I'll tell you the story. This is a very different kind of video than what I usually do. It's not about handbags. This is about my dog and some health issues that he had. He almost died twice in the last couple weeks, and I'm doing this because I know some of you will be interested. If this isn't your kind of thing, go ahead and turn it off, that's fine. But I'm doing it for those who are. So here's what happened. If you watch my channel regularly, you know that we just moved about a month ago. I think I didn't notice his health issues as soon as I would have because we were so distracted with the move. We were noticing right around the time that we moved that he was having some trouble peeing. He would just kind of drip. And then I noticed after we moved that he seemed to be straining a little bit to pee. He was still just dripping. And he's always had some pee and poop issues. And by the way, if you don't want to hear about bodily functions, this video has a lot of that in it, so just warning you. So he's always had some trouble with that. A few years ago he had surgery for a perineal hernia, which makes it difficult for him to poop. He strains when he does that. So he's always had these pee and poop issues, so it wasn't that abnormal for us to see this with him. And he's also old, he's almost 15. So for the last few years, he leaks and he wears, you might have noticed when I had him here, he wears a belly band, a little wrap around his belly with a pad in it, a urinary pad, because he leaks everywhere. And of course we don't want that on the carpet and stuff. So we got here, he was still having that little bit of trouble peeing, and then I noticed that his back seemed to be hurting him, and I was thinking that's because he's straining to pee. So I put him on some meds that I had, some anti-inflammatories and some pain pills to help him with his back. When I started giving him the meds, he started vomiting every meal. And after 2 days of this and looking online, and there was something online about when a dog is vomiting, something in their lining, stomach lining, they need to fast for 12 to 24 hours. I am not a vet, I'm not passing this information along to you. This is just what I saw online. So I was gonna try that as kind of a last resort before taking him into the vet, just to see if I could fix the issues, because I was figuring the vomiting has to do with the medicine. By the end of the second or third day of vomiting, he's still not able to keep food down. And this is even after I've taken him off the medicine at this point. So like day 3, he's not getting any medicine and he's still vomiting. And I'm trying different things like foods that are more stomach settling, like boiled chicken and rice, things like that. Still not working, he's still vomiting everything up. And he started to get really weak. So at that point, I took him to the vet. They did blood work, they did x-rays, and other than the perineal hernia and the leaking, which is just kind of old age, he's always been perfectly healthy. Anytime we have blood work done, the blood work is perfect, and the vets seem impressed that a dog his age is in such great shape. This time the blood work did not come back normal. And I was expecting it to come back normally. I thought I knew what was going on, so I thought this was gonna be a really easy fix, and they were just gonna like get some fluids in him so he wouldn't be so weak or dehydrated, and then we could start feeding him more bland foods and the vomiting would stop and all that. So the blood work came back. His kidney levels were really high, the BUNs and something else. I'm not a medical person, I don't remember. And his phosphates were really high. Basically, his kidneys were in failure. So they said that we had to admit him to the ICU for like 2 nights. They were gonna flush water basically through his system to flush out his kidneys and hope that that fixed it. And then when the vet said that the phosphates were high, we asked about that, what does that mean? And she said that he had phosphates in his brain, and had we noticed anything like him kind of staring off into space, and we had. And I thought that was just some doggy dementia, because I've heard of that, that's a real thing, because he's old. So I I had noticed that happening a few times in the last few weeks, and I just didn't think anything else of it than that. I had no way of knowing that all this other stuff was going on. So they kept him in ICU for 2 nights, and then they called and said they needed to keep him a third. By the second day, his kidney levels were perfect. They were back to normal. They had been at the very high end of the top bad range. Now they were back to normal, which was great. So he was responding well to that. I thought, great, problem solved. And then it turned out he had a UTI, a urinary tract infection, and he had lots of bacteria in his system. And what had happened from that is, and he gets these from time to time, so we're used to this, because he wears the pads and he leaks onto the pads and it's up against his body, some of that bacteria will sometimes go back into his system and cause UTIs. So we're used to treating those, and that wasn't particularly abnormal. They had to put a urinary catheter in to empty him and to help him urinate and to monitor the urine. And when they took it out, we took him into the vet on, this was an emergency vet, on a Wednesday night. By Saturday, they took the catheter out and he wasn't able to pee on his own at all. He would lift his leg and try to pee, but nothing would come out. So they called and said, we need to put the catheter back in. We need to keep treating the urinary infection, try to figure out what's going on. We're gonna keep him through Monday. And if he's still not better, if he still can't pee on his own, we're gonna send you to a specialist. Great. So he was at this particular vet for 5 nights total. Monday comes around, they take the catheter out. He still can't pee on his own. So we bring him home Monday. They said at that vet that there was nothing more that they could do. At this point, I'd spent $3,000. And y'all know my channel is all about being on a budget. I'm a teacher. I don't have a ton of money laying around, but I did have some that I was able to use to take care of him. And at that point, that was all I had, was that $3,000. So I told the vet, you know, he was sending me to this specialist near us that is known in Houston to be, like, if you hear the name of this vet and you work in the animal field at all here, you know that they're like the most expensive place in town. But this was the only place he was recommending. He said he needed a specialist. He's probably going to need major surgery. There's some kind of blockage or some reason that he's not peeing. This doctor didn't tell me. Turned out later that he had some information that he didn't share with us. But I spent that Monday, after we picked him up, I spent that Monday trying to find a different place to take him. So being online and trying to look around for places. I also spent that Monday getting in touch with our Dachshund Rescue and seeing what they could recommend. I work with the Dachshund Rescues and he's one of their dogs. So I was talking to them, and I was also spending my time, so it was divided between trying to figure out the next steps and trying to find some place that I could afford or that could give me a payment plan or something like that. So divided between that, trying to save him, and looking for at-home euthanasia, because if he couldn't pee in 6 hours or something and couldn't get treatment, I had to put him down that night or the next day at the very latest. So I spent my time divided between trying to find an alternative and save him and saying my goodbyes, which was really, really rough. The Dachshund Rescue that we work with was able to get me in to see a doctor about an hour away from us who they work with. And I wish I had gone to them from the beginning because they were incredible. We went down there and the doctor stayed late. This was about 7 o'clock at night on a Monday by the time we got there. He stayed late to see us because it was an emergency case and because he's awesome. And he knew right away, because we'd already sent Sebastian's paperwork over from the first vet, the emergency hospital. He knew right away what it was. He did some tests to confirm it. He had read in the paperwork that the first vet sent Sebastian's x-rays, I think it was, over to a specialist at the really expensive place. And that specialist wrote back, and this doctor never told me this, that he suspected carcinoma. So this doctor, the second doctor we saw, the specialist who was able to treat Sebastian, he said, let's do some tests, but we think it's this particular kind of carcinoma. He took us in the back, he did an ultrasound on Sebastian, showed us, it was very clear there was a blockage. There was the bladder that was full of urine, and then the urine kind of came to a point in the urethra that comes out of the bladder, and at that point is where there was this blockage and the liquid stopped and couldn't go past. And then you saw this lump, and it turned out to be a tumor, cancerous tumor, as a transitional cell carcinoma, if that means anything to you. So the doctor had a plan. He said he'd dealt with this before, he's done this procedure before, and there were two things to do with Sebastian. One is surgery. He had to go in and put a stent in that was a piece of a catheter, a balloon catheter, and put the stent in to open up the urethra so the liquid could get through. And then the second thing is to put him on an oral medication, which is actually known to kill the cancer cells for this particular kind of cancer. So at this point, this was Monday night, I had just spent the day trying to find a solution, and here it was, but also saying my goodbyes and really expecting not to be able to find a solution and expecting that I was about to have to put Sebastian down. So this was like a complete turnaround and amazing, and we were so hopeful, but I was still trying not to get my hopes up too much because I wanted to be realistic about this. He's, again, almost 15. I didn't know how much more to put him through too. He'd already been in ICU for 5 days. When I picked him up, he seemed kind of out of it. I don't know if that was from medication or if he was just a little afraid of being there because every time he got pulled out he had some procedure done. I don't know, but this doctor had a solution that sounded very promising, so we left in there overnight. The next day they did the surgery and they kept him overnight to monitor him, and the next day we were able to bring him home. That would have been Wednesday when we brought him home, so it's been a whole week at this point that we're dealing with issues with Sebastian. When we brought him home, he had the stent in at this point, and we took him out to pee that night, and he tried to pee and nothing came out. And we tried not to get too discouraged because we're thinking, well, they had a urinary catheter in him, so maybe he's empty. He hasn't had anything else to drink, so maybe there's just nothing to come out. So we went back in the house, he drank a bunch of water. The next morning, he had a pad on the whole time, a wrap. There was nothing on the pad. I took him down and I squatted down so I could see, because he's a dachshund, he's really short. I squatted down to watch when he lifted his leg and tried to pee, and nothing came out. And at that point, I lost it, and I just burst into tears. That was like the last resort. I'm thinking, great, the surgery didn't work, and now I'm back to this place that I was in Monday where we're gonna have to put him down. So we rushed him back that Wednesday morning. Was it Wednesday? Thursday morning. We rushed him back that Thursday morning to the vet that was an hour away that did the surgery, and they did an x-ray. What happened was, when he was straining to poop, remember he has these poop problems, he was straining to poop, and it pushed the stent out of the urethra where it had been placed and completely into the bladder, so it's just kind of floating around in there. So it's not doing its job, and the urethra now is blocked with the tumor again. So the doctor had to do a second surgery, and thank goodness he did. He was optimistic and hopeful, and I was more nervous about it because we've been dealing with this for a week at this point, and my hopes are going down, and I'm afraid of losing Sebastian. but the doctor seemed confident, so he did a second surgery and he put in a longer stent, and he secured one end into the bladder, and then the stent was able to go from like the far end of the bladder all the way into the urethra, where it hopefully can't be pushed out. Then he stayed another night, so he was in ICU for a total of a week and a half. One night he got to be home. So he did the second surgery, stayed another night, and we brought him home the next day. And ever since then, he doesn't really pee on his own, but he leaks constantly. So point is, the surgery worked. They told me that he probably will never have a regular stream again, and he may not be able to pee on his own, but as long as he's leaking and stuff is coming out, that he's good and it's working. Sometimes we have to express his bladder, where we press on him and make it come out so that it doesn't get full and back up into the kidneys again like it did in the beginning. So anyway, this week and a half was just this roller coaster, and thank goodness it's turned out well. Being as old as Sebastian is, I've never had a dog that old before. And every morning for the past year or two, the first thing I do when I wake up is put my hand on his chest to see if he's still breathing, because I never know, as great of health as he's always been in, I never know how long I have with him. And now after all this, I feel like we're really on borrowed time. The doctor said that he's done this procedure before, and dogs have lived for years. At most, Sebastian has a couple of years left anyway, even if all this hadn't happened and he was still really healthy. But he does still have the tumor. Hopefully the oral meds he's taking will kill that. It is possible that that part doesn't work and the tumor grows and cuts off the urethra again, or cuts off the stent. So we don't quite know what's going to happen there. We just have to wait and see. Hopefully we'll have at least a few more months with him, and if we're really lucky, we'll have a few years still. So I just wanted you guys to know that, for those who are interested, and to know where I've been, because this all started on August 1st. I haven't done any YouTube since then. This was my last 2 weeks of summer vacation. I'm back at work now, at school, and yeah, this was overall a pretty crappy summer. There was a lot of really bad stuff that happened. There were a lot of good things too, like our move and like Sebastian surviving this so far. But this was just a terrible way to end the summer. And I mean, that part doesn't even matter. All that's important now is Sebastian's okay, or as okay as he can be. And then immediately after that, the day before I have to go back to work, the very last day of my summer vacation, my back goes out. I have chronic back problems. I've had back problems for over 10 years, and I had felt it bothering me for a few weeks, and on that Sunday, it just completely went out. I had some muscle spasms. I was afraid I was gonna miss work, but luckily I was able to go in. It was difficult. I can't even carry, I've been making smoothies in the morning. I can carry my smoothie cup, but it is difficult. It is a little painful just to carry my smoothie cup. So that's how bad my back is. I have to walk like a little old lady, and yeah. I actually have a walker here at home too that I use to give me some extra support and allow me to put my upper body weight on the walker instead of on my back, which helps a lot. But it was just the perfect end to the crappiest summer I've had in a very long time. But I am so glad that Sebastian's okay. I know I posted, when he first went to the vet, I posted a few things on Instagram. Thank you to all those people who sent prayers and good wishes, good thoughts to him. So he's sleeping over here in the bed next to me right now, and he seems to be doing really well, and I'm just so grateful for that. So thank you for letting me share this, and I know, God, we've had, you know, I work with the dachshund rescues in town, and there have been a few that have passed away recently. It's just, I'm so grateful to still have Sebastian here. I can't stop looking at him and petting him, and I just want to spend all my time with him right now. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching and indulging me in this little story. That's it. Not sure what else to say. I don't want to do the thing about liking the video because that just doesn't seem appropriate, and subscribing and all that, not really appropriate. So that's it. I'll just end it here. Thank you for watching. I wish you a good day and good health to you and your loved ones. Bye.